Hi, this is Jason Fielder with the Daily Forex Report for May 10th. We are looking at the US-Japanese yen pair. This particular pair formed an inside bar on Friday. It is basically moving sideways. The bias is sideways as well. We're looking for this pair to move as high as 100.32, possibly as low as 97.59. This pair did gap up on the open, so look for it to retrace that gap within the next 5 days prior to the close of this week's session. Now look for some resistance around 99.27 and look for some support around 98.28. Now switching over to the Euro USD pair, this particular pair shot up and definitely closed much higher than the previous week had shown as far as breaking through some resistance. This pair is moving up, biases to the upside. This pair did gap up. It has retraced that gap already, so I'm looking for this pair to continue higher, potentially going as high as 137.58 and possibly as low as 132.30. Look for some resistance around 136.77 and look for some support if it moves lower at 135.25. Now switching to the pound US dollar pair. This particular pair moved higher during Friday's session to close up. We are expecting this pair to continue moving sideways. The bias is definitely to the upside, but currently I anticipate it moving sideways with kind of an upward slant. I do believe this particular bar on Thursday was just a pullback for this trend, so we could definitely see this pair move higher, and that's one of the biases to the upside. Now look for it to move as high as 1.5377 and look for it to move possibly as low as 148.20. Look for some resistance around 152.81 and look for some support around 151.33. Now let's switch over to the US Swiss. This particular pair shot much lower. If you were looking at the swing trade that it made and you took that, definitely could have picked up some pips. Now look at, we are looking for this pair to retrace the gap that it did or has occurred at the open prior to Friday's close. We're looking for it to potentially move as high as 114.18, possibly as low as 1.0960. Look for some resistance around 111.55 and look for some support around 1,000. Now, as far as what I'm looking at during this next session, there's really one trade that I'm looking at. There are several overextended bars, however, they're very close. As a matter of fact, this is one of them. But as you can see, where the close and the low are just a couple of pips away, so there's really no profit to be made there. There were a couple of swing trades and a couple of inside bar trades. One that we're looking at, though, is in the Euro Australian dollar pair. This particular pair formed an inside bar on Friday. The low is pretty low, so I'm looking for the high of this bar to be taken out. If that occurs, look for a buy above 178.35 and look to take a profit right here about 90 pips away. Interestingly enough, 90 pips is right about here as far as your stop loss. So you have a close to a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio going higher if the market does break through that. Now look at this point as well for some resistance. Keep an eye on that. You may want to drop down to a lower time frame when it gets near this. If we get a breakout to basically, that would be a great place to go to break even. So if you get to that point on the breakout, go to break even, we have our stop loss, we have our buy, and we have our take profit. Well, that about does it for today. We only have one real news announcement for tomorrow. We have the U.S. Has their chairman Bernanke speaking on the stress test, the bank stress test, and he's going to be speaking in Georgia. That's tomorrow. No real time given on that particular news announcement, but I'm sure it would be the early part of the day. And that about does it for news announcements. And until next time, this is Jason Fielder. Good trading.